Well, hello and welcome to the Career Agility Series. I am Sonji Young, for those of you all who have not had the pleasure of meeting me or whom I have not had the pleasure of meeting. I want to thank you for joining me tonight for a brief but hopefully supportive discussion and really talking about COVID 19 and the impact that it's had on the workforce and many of you all, many of my colleagues, many of my friends. Ultimately, what I want you to leave from this conversation knowing is one, we are going to get through this. And I know you've probably heard that repeated over and over again, but perhaps from someone who has weathered a layoff, who has weathered being terminated, who has weathered being furloughed. I know what it's like to be in this kind of uncertainty mode. And so, what I want to do is briefly kind of discuss what of I guess the variety of things that might be happening right now to those of you who are out there watching, who might watch later, and really connect with you on ways that we can be supportive to one another. So, one of the things that I'd like for you to stop and ask yourself is, have you ever heard of a storm that has never run out of rain? And I start with something positive because right now this feels like a deluge of pure chaos. COVID 19 itself has threatened lives physically, but now the after effects of it have now kind of trickled into our careers. So I'm hearing from people who are being furloughed, which is ultimately a temporary layoff. I'm hearing from folks that have been ultimately terminated. So their companies have unfortunately been so severely impacted that they've decided to let people go permanently and or layoff, which is ultimately the same thing. And then I'm also hearing from small business owners who are trying to find creative ways to stay in business so that they don't succumb to the effects of COVID 19. So, as we look at the wide array of things that are going on around us within our own lives, I want you to stop and think of the things that we do have control of. So, for those of you all, I'll start with those who have been laid off. For those of you all who have been laid off, my recommendations are pretty simple. Take some time to really catch your breath. And that's for everyone. But ultimately, for those who've been laid off, this is a situation where you are back to the drawing board, right? Unless you have some other way of bringing in income, you're kind of back to the drawing board of looking at what's your next move in your career. And while that might initially sound discouraging, it doesn't have to be discouraging. So, one of the things, or a few of the things that you want to start doing is letting people know, those who you feel safest letting know, let them know you need a support network. I'm not telling you to tell folks who are gossips. I'm not telling you to tell people that are going to make you feel uncomfortable or at fault. We know that this is not your fault. COVID 19 is no one's personal fault, but it is a side effect. It is, an after effect of something that has happened to the entire globe. So look for a support network, people that you can trust. That might be two people. That might be if you have a large network of friends and family or people that are in the workforce still. That might be a group of ex coworkers who you feel like you can trust. So I want you to take some time, make a list of your support network, people whom you can trust, and let them know what you're going through. I think right now, for those of us who are in a situation to support one another, right now we need to do just that and nothing less. What I'd like for you to do as you make that list of your support network, also give people a call to action. If they really truly support you, then they should be able to begin helping you look for work. So ask them to help keep their eyes open. And we're talking about actively keeping their eyes open. If they see something, if they know of other people that are hiring or companies that are hiring, you're asking them to connect you to those resources. And so I want you, as you create that network, I want you to also take some time out to kind of really think about the mental impact that this might have on you. For some people are, bounce right back from getting bad news. But for other people, it takes a little time to settle in, and it might take you a week to finally feel the mental impact of having been laid off. Take some time. If you are not in counseling or therapy, I would greatly appreciate you looking into going into counseling. And I'm not talking about delving into your personal life from in the past, but there are crisis counselors, people that you can call about situations that are happening right now and talk to them just to have a quick conversation about, you know, I'm feeling a little strange about this layoff. I'm feeling a little strange about being terminated or furloughed. And most counselors and therapists have had patients who have been through that, and they know exactly how to direct you and support you during this time. So, A, create a support network, find those people that are going to have your back. I don't care if it's one person, I don't care if it's 100. I'd love for you to have many, but if you don't have many, really quality is what matters. People that are going to be there. And secondly, I'd recommend that you begin really thinking about going to maybe a crisis counselor. If your job hasn't already connected you to career counselors, tap into those resources. Don't be ashamed. This is a time where we really need to activate every resource within our range and which within our reach. So that's initially for those who've been laid off. For those who've been furloughed, which is another type of layoff, where it's a temporary layoff, ultimately we're kind of freezing the roles, we're freezing the jobs, but we're not going to be able to, company wise, not going to be able to completely pay people. And so that's, I don't feel as though that's a very different mental impact for some people, but everyone responds differently. And I don't want to instruct you on how to respond, but I want you to take that same advice. A furlough could be a precursor to things improving, but it could be a precursor to things worsening as well. And so if you are in a furlough kind of standstill right now, my advice to you is to brush up on your resume, get your resume ready in the event you have to switch careers, in the event that they start to downsize from those who are furloughed. Even if they don't downsize, have your resume ready regardless of what the conditions are in the workplace right now. It's one of those events where we don't know what the next move is going to be. We don't know how our employers are going to be impacted in the long term. Right now, short term, this furlough is a way in which they're handling it, but we don't know the long term effects. And so I want you to be confident, but I also want you to be prepared. So get your resume ready, even if you've been permanently laid off, even if you've been furloughed, have your resume ready. And that's just a rule of thumb. And I'm happy to help those of you all who need some help in coaching with your resumes. That can be a bit of an overwhelming task for some, but definitely get your resume together. What types of credentials, what types of certificates can you be accessing right now? Is your employer supporting you in taking some online courses? What are some things that you can do to make yourself really take your mind off of what's going on, but also some things that could potentially be helping you become more marketable in your career? And so certifications are a great way. And some sites that you might consider are lynda.com as well as LinkedIn. Many of them have, and Coursera. So Coursera, LinkedIn, and lynda.com. Those are resources where you could go out, look for a course, and get certified and or exposed to that new topic or subject. And you know what better than if when you are off furlough, when you go back to work, to be able to talk to your boss and say, hey, you know, I maintained some focus and determination during this furlough, and now I've got the certificate. Or while I was gone, I took advantage of these courses. Always be willing to really show your ability to be agile. Agile is being able to be fluid in the moment, to be able to adjust and adapt to things that are going on. Now, that's not to say that what's going on in the world should be ignored emotionally. This is a lot to carry. You know, not only are many of us carrying the load of what's going on in our careers, but some of us are managing that. Now our children are at home, or your kids might be at home. And if unfortunately the circumstances are very overwhelming, you might be dealing with someone who actually has COVID 19 in your family. And so I've known of people who are in those situations, who are in all three circumstances. They are laid off and or furloughed, They have children at home that they now must attend to and be teacher to. And they also have a family member who might be recovering from COVID. If that's not stressful enough, I don't know what is. And so I don't want you to act as if that's nothing and you should just get over it. That's not what being agile is about. Being agile is about being vulnerable, understanding that situations change quickly, and that you have to take good care of yourself in order to weather this type of circumstance. And once you've weathered it, my favorite saying during all of this has been every storm has to run out of rain. I don't care how bleak or discouraging it gets on a career front, on the kid front, on the family health front. All of this has to subside at some point. And it's that level of determination to take care of your mental health, take care of your physical health, and the health of those of your loved ones and your friends. But more importantly, take some time for, you know, exhaling. Take a deep breath, exhale. This is a lot to go through. So we talked about folks who've been laid off. We talked to folks who've been furloughed. I want to talk to people that still have their jobs because this is still a very overwhelming time for people who are still at work. You might be working, but your workspace might have changed. You might be working from home now. Your work environment might be changing. You might be working out of a different office where there are fewer patients or whomever the public arena is that you work with. So that can have just changing environments can have a lot of stress on people and take a toll on you emotionally. Think of things that you can, again, use to distract, take your time and mind off of this, right? Start doing something fun. Now, my boyfriend's going to laugh at me when I say this, but the way in which I've been trying to manage stress right now is trying new things. So I haven't hula hooped in probably 20 years, but I purchased a hula hoop and I want to take that up again. I purchased a jump rope. I pulled out an old bike that my brother gave to me and dusted it off and replaced the wheels. And I have allowed that to take up that mental energy that otherwise would be occupied with being stressed. I have utilized that to really hone my attention around that, around something that can take my mind off of being overwhelmed. And so you might not do hula hooping, you might not actually want to jump rope, but there's something that really can take your mind off of this. That might be, if you're someone who likes to make candles or make things, maybe that's making something, that you can at the end of all of this say, hey, that's something that I made during the pandemic. But I want you to find resourceful activities that really help to redirect your attention and your energy from this. Because if you're sitting at home with children and you're watching the news all day, listening to the reports of as it evolves, that is overwhelming. It's tiring. And at the end of the day, you have nothing left for yourself. So pick up something that rejuvenates your joy, something that gives you happiness during this time, and ultimately helps to distract you from the otherwise stressful things going on around us. So I wanted to make this conversation brief. I know we're running up on 15 minutes, and I encourage those of you who've joined the conversation. Hey, how are you all tonight? Hey, Georgia Brown, good to see you joining from Detroit. And I want you all to really start to think about, even if you're not personally impacted, think about people around you. Think about your family members and friends. Now, you have some family members and friends that are more quiet in spirit, right? They might be actually going through a lot, but not talking to you about it. It might not be in your best interest right now to press and poke and ask questions. But if you know that they're looking for a job, maybe it would be polite of you or kind of you to just send them a job that you know fits their background and politely say, hey, I thought about you when I saw this. You don't have to put people on Front Street. This is already a stressful enough time. You don't have to embarrass people beyond what they're already going through. But you can be thoughtful and you can be considerate of what others are going through. And that's the same thing that if you're going through something like a layoff or a furlough right now, you can also tell your family members, well, I don't want to talk about it every day, but I would love it if you would send me a job, or if you see a course or a class, send that information to me. We can be so supportive to one another without being invasive, without being intrusive. And so, with all of that said, I want to provide to you a call to action. If you are unemployed during this COVID-19 crisis pandemic, if you know someone who's unemployed during the pandemic, please let me know. And I'd love to send them a love, what I call a career love note, where things are going to get better. I know that they are. And I can tell you some stories and positive stories of people who got laid off or furloughed at the very start of this and are slowly, gradually finding new ways and or new jobs as a result of this. So let's keep our spirits focused on this is going to bring about a better change for all of us. The initial impact, yes, it's painful, it's hurtful, but the overarching impact is going to be, hopefully, for everyone watching this, those that you know, hopefully it will be positive. And I just have to keep that. Part of this is about maintaining confidence, is the story and the narrative that you choose to believe. If you choose to believe it's going to be bad, 9 times out of 10, it'll probably be bad. But if you change your mindset and have that growth mindset to say, you know what, something good is going to come out of this. I truly believe it will. I I am one who has watched when my mindset has changed, how my circumstances change. So I wish you all who are going through layoff, going through furlough, going through hour reductions, I wish you the best. And more importantly, I extend myself to you. So, as a talent strategist, I can talk to you about ways in which you can continue to really improve yourself, even in those times of kind of lull in your career. Let's talk. Let's stay connected. Thanks to those of you. Hey, Georgiana Ekpo and Georgia Brown, thanks for always being a fan. And to those of you all who watch this later on, feel free to reach out to me. I can be reached at thesonjiyoung.com. Other than that, have a great evening. Thanks for joining us for this edition of the Career Agility Series, Maintaining Confidence in Times of Uncertainty. Hey, Lawanda, if you're just joining or if you like to watch the replay, hang on. I'll be posting that in just a minute. Have a great night, you all, and stay strong. We'll get through this. Take care.